Very warm welcome to the channel today. Today we're looking at a very exciting game of Garry Kasparov versus Boris Gelfand from the 1993 tournament in Linares. And in this game we get to see Garry Kasparov's opening preparation at a different level to everybody else at a time where computers really weren't so much involved as they are today. But also we get to see the strength of a bishop and understanding positioning and tactics when you have a strong bishop. So let's get straight into the game. In the game we had e4 by Kasparov, who's playing with the white pieces, and c5 by Gelfand, who plays the Sicilian. So they're both up for an attacking game. Then we get knight f3 followed by d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and then we get a6. And here there's many different moves. You can get f3, we get bishop to e2, queen to d3 are all moves, but here in the game Kasparov decides to go with bishop to c4. After bishop to c4 we get e6, and this is the bishop that is going to be the super strong bishop throughout this game. So pay attention to this bishop, what it enables Kasparov to do. It sets up an attack for the whole game. It really is beautiful. So e6 blocks off any, seems like it blunts this bishop, but wait till we see what happens. So we get b3 by Kasparov, then we get b5, with the idea of maybe playing a5, a4, and boxing in this bishop a little bit. Then we get castles by Kasparov, bishop to e7 by Gelfand. And this might, you think, well, this gives Kasparov the opportunity to play a pawn to f4, which would of course give him incredible control and space in the center of the board. But instead, he decides to play queen to f3. Then we get queen to c7 by Gelfand. We get queen to g3 by Kasparov, attacking this pawn. And then we get castles. And what do we get then? Well, we get bishop to h6, very simply showing, well, I'm going to checkmate you in case you don't react. So what might you play here? How would you protect this? So if we move the pawn forward, we lose the exchange, we lose the rook for the bishop. So how can we defend against checkmate? Well, maybe you might think, well, could we go knight to h5, because we're not only are we attacking the queen, but we're also defending the piece. Well, what happens then? Well, very simply, we just get queen to g4, and then after king to h8, the best continuation is queen takes h5, pawn takes bishop, and then queen takes h6, and black has completely open up around their king. So that's not a good move. So the best defensive move here is very simply knight to e8. Defending, it's a backwards knight push. Got to watch out for them. Not always the easiest to see. And then we get a rook a to d1. Then we get bishop to d7, knight to f3 by Kasparov. And then we get b4. Kasparov says, that's fine. I'm going to go queen to e2, because now he is thinking, well, I can go, he goes knight to e2 rather, and I'm going to put my knight in f4, and we're going to start facing up on this pawn. Then we get a5, thinking, well, maybe we can push here. And here Kasparov does play knight to f4, and the computer says the best move is king to h8, which, would you believe, was actually played in the game. Boris Gelfand, a legend of the game. So you might think, well, yeah, that would be good, but why, if I played a4, would it not trap the bishop? Because it can't capture, because we capture back, can't go here because queen captures, can't go here because it's captures, and if you sack it, well, there's enough defenders here. So let's have a look at that line, a4, and the game is now completely winning. It's plus 9.9 for white, because after bishop takes g7, knight takes g7, knight to h5, you have to play bishop to f6, then you play knight to f6 check, king has to go to h8, then you go queen h4, then you have to go knight to h5 to defend the checkmate, And after this really is no opportunity to stop the checkmate, because after king to g7, we go queen to g5, h8, and then once you get queen to h6, we got a mate in one. So that shows why a4 did not work. That's why Gelfand plays h8. So after h8, we get g5, bishop g5, then we get knight to f6, because it doesn't want to trade this off. Then we get queen to h4, and then bishop to b5 by Gelfand, attacking this rook. Now again, you might think, well, why not go a4 now? There's no more longer a checkmate. Well, we see that's a mistake. Why? Can you see why this is beautiful? You get bishop to c4, queen takes c4, then after queen takes c4 we take e5. So e5 is now threatening here, so you have to take. But then we have this nasty knight to g6 check, and after you take back, you win the queen. So it's amazing that Kasparov has this bishop that's seemingly hanging. That's just waiting to be captured, and yet Gelfand can't do anything about it. Really wonderful. So Gelfand plays this move, bishop to b5, and here Kasparov plays a brilliant move. In fact, he doesn't just play one brilliant move, he plays two back-to-back brilliant moves. So can we see the combination of moves that are brilliant by Kasparov? So looking at this position, what would you do? Well, you think, well, I'm probably going to move my rook because I'd want to trade it off down an exchange. Well, Kasparov doesn't care because he plays the brilliant and the wonderful knight to d4, giving up the exchange, attacking the bishop. So the bishop has to decide what he's doing, attacking this pawn. And then we get, by Gelfand, bishop to e8. Now, why does he go bishop to e8? Because in this position, if you take the rook, you can pretty much kiss goodbye to the game, because then knight d6, pawn takes, bishop takes, knight has to block against the mate now because you've got this beautiful checkmate with the knight. So then you go queen to h5, then you have to take the knight with the rook, and then after you take the rook back and drop back your bishop, not to b5 because you'd be hanging it, but somewhere back along here. Again, that doesn't work because you have to play something like knight d5, because if you don't, if you move, for instance, if you move your bishop back here, it's a mate in two very simply because you've got this beautiful check here. So as we can see, that's why in this position he has to play to protect against this line opening up. But here it doesn't stop Kasparov because Kasparov says, well, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. So he takes knight to the e6, brilliant move, and attacks with the knight, attacking both the queen and the rook. So queen drops back. Now here Kasparov's plan is, if I can get a rook up onto this file, I'm going to win this game. So what does he do? What would you do in this position? Well, would you just take the rook, take your exchange, and try and figure things out? Well, no. He has a really wonderful plan in store here. Can you see it? So we mentioned the plan is to get a rook to here. So what's stopping this rook to get here? Well, very simply, it's this pawn. So how can we attack this pawn? Well, very simply, we go e5. So after e5, you have to take really. Otherwise, you're giving up a piece. You can drop here, you can drop whatever you want to do. It's a tricky situation. So Gelfand does what is the best move, which is d takes e5. And after here, we see a combination of moves by Kasparov that just shows the tactician, is that a word? Tactician that he is. He plays knight to f8, forcing the bishop back to take. Now, can we see what's happening? He's getting ready for this rook move, but first of all, he takes bishop, takes knight. After g takes f6, he now plays rook. So now he's attacking this piece, he's attacking these two pieces. So what does he do? What can you do from here? How can you defend this? Well, he goes knight to d7. Seems like a good move, but unfortunately it's not, because after knight to d7, you have queen to g4. And it was in this position that Gelfand resigned, reason being because after a move maybe like g6, having to block off the checkmate here, you've got queen to e6, and after moving the king, you can now win the queen by forking the queen with the king, or after a move like this, you can continue on in so many different ways. But as we can see, a really wonderful win by Garry Kasparov, showing the power of the bishop and really enjoyable attacking chess.